It's Monday, July 1st of 2019. I guess this is like the official second half of the year now. I don't know. Guy's Daily Drive. And welcome everyone to Guy's Daily Drive, the continuing show that asks the question, should someone be recording a podcast while driving a car down a busy street? The answer is probably no. However, as long as I actually am paying attention to the road and not to, well, I'm sorry, I cannot believe just how bad the traffic, the traffic going west on the road that I'm currently on is horrendous. The traffic going south on I-95 was wall to wall. I am so glad that I don't have that far to go as far as where I live as compared to where I work, because it is just horrendous. You know, I was talking to somebody, I think it was it was Gaz for the MyMac Podcast, and was talking about how bad the traffic is here in this area. And, you know, as usual, it's a problem that the city planners themselves caused when they were trying to come up with a solution to minimize traffic. And in almost every regard, they failed. And the reasons for their failure are, there's so many reasons why they failed, but the biggest one was creating an interstate highway system with some bypasses and all the rest of that happy stuff that didn't take into account that the population was going to grow, and it was going to basically navigate toward entries and exits of I-95, or the interstate highway system, for the very reason why it was installed in the first place, because it was much more convenient to be able to go from point A to point B if you didn't have to worry about traffic lights, and if you didn't have to worry about, at the time, large volumes of traffic. And the biggest failure, beyond the fact that the suburbs grew toward where these roads were, was that they kept adding more and more exits and entries so that people could get on and off the interstate highway and head toward wherever it was they were trying to get to. The problem with that is entries and exits slow these kinds of roads down, because you have people trying to get on, people trying to get off, and they have to slow down to get off. They have to try to speed up from a slow speed to get on. And then when you also factor in the fact that you have all of these huge trucks that are trying to use these roads just the same as we are, you know, as people in cars. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming commercial trucking for this problem. It is not their fault. The fault is all of the entries and exits that were put in to accommodate these bedroom communities, the suburbs, just outside of the large cities. And if you want to see how this can easily be proven, when you look at the differences in volume near large population centers for interstate highways versus turnpikes, okay? Pennsylvania, as much as I hate the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and I've talked about it before, from where I get on at Breezewood, headed west toward Ohio, taking away all the twists and the turns and the going through mountains, it rarely gets backed up, even when you get close to the big cities, because there's not that many places to get on and off. And because there's not that many places to get on and off, for the most part, there's not a whole lot of residential building along that, that's going along the same path as the turnpikes, because there's no way for the people that live there to get onto the turnpike from where they live. They have to go to a different area to get onto the turnpike. Whereas with the interstate highways, it's like every couple of miles, there's another entry, there's another exit. And the closer you get to the large cities, the worse it gets, because besides having all the bedroom communities, then you also have all of the commercial and retail buildings and facilities that service those communities and service the interstate highways. When you have a turnpike that has limited number of entries, limited number of exits, then you can have a relatively quick and easy path to get to your destination, or at least the destinations that are served through the limited number of entries or entrances and exits for the turnpike. And here's the solution that they keep trying to implement for all of this. They keep thinking that if they just widen the road by another lane, by another 2 lanes, by another 3 lanes to handle the volume of traffic, that the problem will go away. Except it never does. It never works, because the traffic just fills up that space. Now, in this area, they also experiment with HOV and something that's honestly even more effective is these Easy Pass. These Easy Pass lanes, which typically also go along with HOV lanes. So if you have 2 or 3 people in your car, you can ride for free. If you're by yourself and just want to get out of the traffic, well, you can ride them too, but you have to pay for it. So if you have the money, you can ride these more efficient lanes. So you're paying for the privilege of being in these lanes, which helps pay for these kinds of roads. But because of all the building in the area, you have a limited amount of space to utilize these kinds of lanes, to put these kinds of lanes in. What they really need to do is create more turnpike-like highways. So, for example, living here near the DC area, traffic starts to get really bad as you head north on I-95 toward Washington, right around Fredericksburg. That's where it starts to get bad. So what, in my opinion, they need to do is build a new highway. However, have that highway start south of Fredericksburg and have it go in between Baltimore and Washington as best you can, with a limited number of entries and exits. It also needs to be open for trucks. You can't just make it for cars, because the cars, the sheer number of cars when you're talking about volume isn't the problem. The sheer number, the trucks trying to get through the sheer number of cars, that's the problem. So what do? You take the trucks out of the interstate highway that is headed for the big city with all of its exits and entrances. You make that so it's not as efficient for truck drivers, and you give them an alternative. You have them go down a road that's only going to have a few exits, a few entrances, and for those truck drivers that don't need to go to Washington, that don't need to go to Baltimore, that don't need to go to Philadelphia, maybe don't even need to go to New York, but there will be occasional exits for them to get to those areas. But for the most part, these are just straight through highways with very, very few amenities. You put in a couple of service plazas for people to get gas and food and all the rest of that, but for the most part, there's nothing. You don't put a lot of stuff alongside this road, because that just, all you're doing is exasperating the problem and moving it to a different location. So you don't do that. You just put in a road that lets people that are driving long distance go from point A to point B, so that they're not clogging up all of the roads that are leading into the major cities. And then things like 495 and 295 and 395, maybe they won't be the ultimate crap holes that they are now, with all of these trucks that aren't nearly as maneuverable as cars, but still have to deal with the huge volume of traffic. You take them out of the equation and you give them the alternative. That's what I would do. And these roads would be paid roads. If you tell a truck driver that he has to pay $20 to bypass Washington, bypass Baltimore, bypass Philadelphia, or whatever major cities that he has to drive through now, that's taking him hours to get through because of traffic, well, it's worth it for them. And it's worth it for the companies that hire them. And it's worth it for the companies that ship using trucks. That's what I would do. If you would like to get a hold of me and say, Guy, you're crazy, they could never do that, and I need an exit for my community, but nobody else can have one, send me an email to guy@mymac.com. You can also find me on the Twitters, my Twitter handles. I have 2 Twitter accounts currently. My old-time standard of Mac Parrot, and my new one, which I'm kind of funneling most of my content through now, which is Vert Shark. And I'm trying to be good, I haven't been as good as I should be, of taking most of the content that I create, audio and video, and funneling that to vertshark.com. But I'm trying to be better about that. So nearly everything that I do, I get over to vertshark.com as quickly as I possibly can. If you would like to help support the things that I do, I have a Patreon account, patreon.com/MacParrot. I also have a coffee account, ko-fi, and you can donate there as well. It's like $3 to buy me a coffee. And that is ko-fi.com/MacParrot. What else? I do the MyMac.com podcast every single weekend, or almost every single weekend, with Gazmaz, and of course the Mac to the Future livecast, go livecast, whatever. I always screw that up. Can be found every single Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over there in Facebook. I tried doing it through the VertShark website. Didn't work out quite the way I thought it was going to. And we are now less than a month away from MacStock 2019. This is a great event, great community. It's in Woodstock, Illinois, just outside of Chicago, so it's real easy to get to. $249. That's all it is. $249 for a conference that lasts the entire weekend. And if you use my code MyMacGuy, MyMacGuy, you can get an additional $70 off, making your total cost $179. How freaking crazy is that? That is fabulous. That is such a great price. So you can get more information on that by going to macstock2019.com. And you can also find out more information on that on the regular website, which is macstockconferenceandexpo.com. So thank you all for downloading, watching, and or listening. This is also available through the Guys Daily Drive. The Guys Daily Drive feed over there in the iTunes. If you would leave me a review for this show, that would be greatly appreciated. And I will catch you next time on Guys Daily Drive.